Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 1 Episode 5 Rampage has finally been released on Disney+, and with it we finally got the origin for Omega's energy bow and learned how the Bad Batch will continue traveling the galaxy to survive. The episode was packed full of Easter eggs to the Star Wars films, books, comics and games, and there were quite a few interesting pieces inside of Cid's den, so let's break them all down. Before we dive in, make sure you hit the subscribe button for more awesome Bad Batch content. The action begins with Tech giving Omega her very own comms device to give her a bigger role in the group and allow her to communicate in emergencies. This comms device is the same one that Crosshair used to use until he defected. After this, we learn that the group are traveling to the very shady underworld planet of Ord Mantell in order to find out more info on why Fennec Shand is after Omega. You might remember that Ord Mantell was first mentioned in The Empire Strikes Back. It was also used as a base of operations for former Sith Lord Darth Maul and his Shadow Collective during the Clone Wars in the Son of Dathomir comic, where a massive battle went down. Surprisingly, the world actually stayed neutral during the Galactic Civil War, but as time went on, the Empire was not happy with how many rebel sympathizers were coming off the streets of Ord Mantell, and after that, clamped down on them. Following this, we learn that Echo has a contact on Ord Mantell named Cid, who used to hold a deep trust in the Jedi. Echo was quickly reminded, however, that all of the Jedi are now dead. Once they arrive at the very dodgy establishment, the Batch ask a Trandoshan who's working where this contact Cid might be, and they get no response. In the back of the place are actually the Ithorian and Weequay prisoners from the Clone Wars Season 7, Martez's sister's arc, who helped Trace escape when she was fighting off the guards. Some very nice continuity, and good to see that these guys managed to safely get off of Obadiah. While the clones are bickering over what to do next, and whether there are any more informants around, Omega looks over at the Trandoshan and pretty much instantly knows that she is Cid. I think we're getting closer and closer to revealing that she is Force sensitive, or has some other ability which allows her to learn information instantly. Once the Bad Batch realize that the Trandoshan is the contact, they immediately enter her backroom den to continue the negotiations. Very interestingly, you can see a few Clone Trooper helmets mounted on the wall, which does make some sense considering her good relationship with the Jedi. On the right is a regular clone helmet which could belong to anyone, and on the left is a clone pilot helmet which could belong to Gold Leader from Anaxis in the Clone Wars Season 7, or even Oddball since he had a very similar helmet during the Clone Wars and used a different one in Revenge of the Sith. So it would be pretty cool if his Clone Wars helmet, which he no longer had at the Battle of Coruscant, ended up here. In the very back of the den, you can see an almost completely white Mandalorian helmet with a rangefinder attached. The white reminds me of the Imperial Super Commandos from Star Wars Rebels, which in turn was based on the original concepts for Boba Fett's armor. Looking at the poster on the wall above Cid's desk, you can also see a pair of Westar 34 blasters, which are the same ones Jango Fett used. The connections to Mandalorian culture are very quickly building up here. Some very cool stuff in this den. Eventually, the group get a job to rescue a young girl named Muchi, who has been captured by Zargirian slavers. Wrecker and Omega are very confident that they can get the job done, before Cid gives the group a device with the details of the bounty, a possible proto-version of the bounty pucks used in The Mandalorian. On the way to the rescue mission, Wrecker again begins to wince in pain, clutching the same part of his head that we've seen quite a few times now in the previous episodes. This now completely rules out the theory that he just faked the headache so that he could make the room for Omega on board the ship, and unfortunately strongly points to an issue with his inhibitor chip coming up soon. I definitely don't think he'll die since Tech has the device to check for the inhibitor chips, but something is definitely going on. While scouting out for the mission, Wrecker reminisces on a time that the Bad Batch did a simple smash and grab mission, just like their upcoming one, on the planet Kuat. Kuat is of course the planet which hosted the Kuat Drive Yards, which manufactures an absolute ton of very important ships and other equipment for both the Republic and the Empire. As the Bad Batch begins the mission, Hunter orders Omega to stay behind on the ship for her own safety, which upsets her, but she has no choice. While waiting on board the ship, modifying her little trooper doll, which by the way is a nice reference to Jyn Erso's doll in Rogue One and Rey's doll in The Force Awakens, a group of Zygerians find the ship. Luckily, Omega reacts quickly once the Zygerians arrive, telling their droid Gonki to play dead, while she manages to escape out of the front of the ship. Unfortunately, when she tries to contact the rest of Clone Force 99, there is no response over the comms unit, because they've all been captured by the slavers. Luckily, they won't be needing comms to contact Omega, because she's already made her way up onto the nearby rock face above, and slowly tries to figure out a way to rescue her captured friends. Luckily, Echo is smart enough to shout out about not having their gear, covertly signaling Omega to go looking for it. While this is going on, Cid receives a transmission from a mysterious figure, speaking Huttese. This is Bib Fortuna, Jabba's right-hand man, who is seeking Muchi for his boss. We'll get into how this connects to Jabba's palace later in the video. Eventually, Omega is caught, but not before she unleashes a ravenous young rancor who begins tearing through the slave camp, causing a ridiculous amount of chaos. The batch then try to free the girl that they think is Muchi when they get the unfortunate news. She's not Muchi. The rampaging rancor is instead. As the batch begin to chase Muchi the rancor, Tech awesomely lowers his visor and uses the same translation feature as he did with the Politex on Skako Minor in the Clone Wars Season 7. Great to finally see the other uses of Tech's equipment slowly coming back. Following this, Muchi begins brutally slamming the Zygerian slavers into the ground and rampaging through them, managing to evade everything the slavers throw at her. Eventually, Muchi runs off in an understandable rage, leaving the Zygerian leader to fight Hunter one-on-one with his infamous Electro Whip. The Electro Whip is a very common tool used by almost all slavers in the galaxy in order to keep their slaves in line without causing permanent damage to them, because that would drop their value. Hunter makes very quick work of the Zygerian slave boss, with hand-to-hand combat being one of his specialties, managing to finally subdue the threat. Meanwhile, on the chase for Muchi, one of the slavers drops his energy bow, allowing Omega to pick it up. The energy bow seen here is not exactly the same one that the Dathomirian Night Sisters used, but the same technology and general design is definitely being used. We know that Omega will keep this bow for quite a while to come, as we see her with it in the trailer, and even at the Venator scrapyard with Captain Rex. So it's possible that Omega will want to find the origin of the energy bows, possibly leading them back to Dathomir. There's so much potential for storytelling with Dathomir and the Night Sisters at this point in the timeline, so it would be a big missed opportunity if we don't return there. Following this, Tech informs Wrecker that in Rancor Society, one must challenge the Alpha in order to gain authority. As you can guess, Wrecker has absolutely no problem with this, charging full speed ahead at the massive beast. Unfortunately, he literally takes another hit to the head, again luckily with his helmet. For a guy like Wrecker, these head hits are probably pretty common, but they definitely can't be good for the inhibitor chip. Eventually, both Wrecker and Muchi get tired out, allowing the Bad Batch to finally capture her and take her back to Sid. Once we get back to Sid's den, we get a massive reveal as Bib Fortuna and two Gamorrean guards enter, revealing that the mysterious figure from earlier was Bib. Jabba's right-hand man is here to pick up Muchi and deliver her to his boss. Now this could be the origin story for Jabba's Rancor, which Luke kills in Return of the Jedi, but that would be another major retcon from the series. In current canon, Jabba's Rancor was named Patisa and was given to him as a birthday gift from Bib before the year 32 BBY, obviously way before this point. So the only other possibility is that this is a different Rancor which Jabba had kept somewhere else. Either way, I hope we get some clarification on this in the next few days. Some people are saying that if this does happen to be a retcon, and this is the Rancor that Luke killed, then the human captured by the Zygerian slavers might actually be Malakili, who was Jabba's Beastmaster, and the man who looked after his Rancors. After Bib Fortuna leaves to bring the Rancor back to Jabba, Sid gives the Bad Batch their first bit of information about the bounty hunter after them, revealing that her name is Fennec Shand, and that she's pretty new to the bounty game. The Batch also learned that she's on a direct commission, keeping the people or person that hired her very mysterious. The most likely option at this point is still Nala Se, but really the way they're keeping it this vague could point to someone far more nefarious. Following this, Sid tells Hunter that in order to survive, they're going to need a lot of two things: money and friends. Obviously, they haven't got much of either, so she offers to keep giving them jobs in the future, just to keep them going. And the reference of friends is probably a nice little nod, telling us that we could be seeing Captain Rex in the next episode or two, especially since we've now eaten through most of the trailer content at this point. Usually, Lucasfilm only put content from the beginning of seasons into their trailers these days, so it's looking good for a Rex comeback very soon. So that is my full breakdown of Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 1 Episode 5 Rampage. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.